into the house to do some repairs or do some yard work, he'd always have like some sodas, waiting for them, after they were done, and they would come and hang out in the garage and drink the Coke and Sprite and then leave. That's a small example. A bigger example is, we have a rental tenant, in one of the houses that he owns, and he was really advocating to give her the house. She was a single mother, who had several kids, and so he was really advocating. My brother and I was like, what are you, crazy? But he just kept, he really wanted to give her the house, as a gift. And also there was an example of a friend of his who was having some trouble with one of his small businesses, and he gave him some money to help him out, in his time of need. So really, all of the decisions he made in his life were about others, and how to make others' lives better. So his instinct was to really be a provider, and that's what he did constantly for us and for his brothers and for his sisters and everyone that he was close to. One story that really had a profound impact on his life, I think Marko also mentioned, how he would talk about the time of the partition, in the late 40s. So there's a story that he said several times about one of his experiences then. It was, probably around the late 40s. He was probably 10. And the partition was happening after the British rule, so that was a tough time in the Bengal region, right? And there was famine going on. So he told this story about he had to wait in line in the rice ration to get rice for his whole family. So there was one instance where he waited the entire day. He gets to the front of the line, and whoever's managing the line basically kicks him out and says, you're too young, get out of here. So I think this had a profound impact about how he thinks about humanity, right? He always used to say whenever there were conflicts and wars going on, he's like, why can't we just come to the table as human beings, treat each other as human beings, and use logic, science and reasoning to resolve issues, instead of, getting into tribalism with religion or ethnicity and nationality. So, he really loved this country, because of that. He really loved this country. He would always boast about, how we have all these, different religions, how there's a synagogue next to a mosque, next to a temple, next to a church. Everybody's living harmoniously, and he was really proud. He was really proud to live in this country because of that. So, his enormous compassion is really the predominant trait in terms of how he lived his life. Number 2, imagination. This was already mentioned previously, but he would always ask us that what separates humans from other animals, and it's imagination. And he used this imagination in many ways. He built his own cathode ray TV back in the 70s. He was very proud about that, and that was sitting in the garage for a while. He wanted to open a restaurant called Something Different. And he would say, it's not Indian food, it's not Mexican food, it's not Chinese food, it's just something different. And then when he lived in Venezuela, he encountered the bidets in the bathrooms. He was really excited about that, and he wanted to start a bidet business here in the U.S. And then whenever we drove by a Starbucks, whenever we went to or drove by Starbucks, he would really get frustrated at times because he was like, man, these guys in Seattle, they took my idea. I had this idea about a coffee restaurant and a tea shop, and he would just get really riled up about that. So this drive for idea generation really served him well in his career and community work. And even in his final days, this mind was racing. My brother and I, just a couple of days ago, found a letter that he wrote just a few weeks ago to Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg, advocating for his idea of portable batteries in electric vehicles and how this is going to revolutionize the electric vehicle business. So I'm going to make sure that letter gets to the Department of Transportation. Third theme, determination. Baba was a doer, like in the true sense of the word. You know, he would always be up and doing something. You know, when he wasn't working, he would be doing work in the house. As has been mentioned, you know, he would dedicate his time and energy to the community. And he was a very talented poem reciter and singer, so he would focus on the arts, and he would push me and my brother to do that as well. So, you know, when me and my brother were just sitting around being lazy, watching TV, he would always push us to be like, you know, to do something. And he had a saying, the idle brain is the devil's workshop. So he would always push us to get up and do something. And whenever, you know, we had something to do, a priority that we would push out or procrastinate on, he would say, no mañana syndrome. You know, let's get this done now. Inaction really frustrated him. All right, so those were the three key themes I wanted to cover. So in closing, you know, as I think about how to continue Baba's legacy, it's to live life with an understanding and caring for others, you know, to always seek the common humanity in all of us, to look after those less fortunate, to be bold in imagining new possibilities, and to not to succumb to mañana syndrome in going after your life goals. So, Baba, it was your compassion, your determination, and your imagination that gave me this privileged life. And when I was young, you used to always tell me something to lift me up, to try and lift me up when I was down. But the truth is, this is really what you are. You're the best in the whole world, and I love you forever.